Good afternoon, students. Welcome to lattice theory live lectures. So in this lecture we will discuss about another result or whatever first continuation of yesterday's lecture, that on congruence relation on product of lattices. Then we will see an important type of lattice called complete lattice. So let me go through this now. So if you go to yesterday's lecture, where we have stopped is the following result. Where is that? This is over here. If L and K are lattices and theta is a congruence relation on L and phi is a congruence relation on K, then theta cross phi we have defined as A comma B is congruent to C comma D in this theta cross phi if and only A is congruent to C modulo theta and B is congruent to D modulo phi. Okay. Not only that, conversely also any congruence relation on L cross K should be of this form. Okay. One way we have proved, this way we have proved, and we want to show that this is a, whenever we have a congruence relation, then we want to show for some theta and phi. Okay, that we will see today's class. Okay, so what we have to show is, let call it suppose psi be a congruence relation on L cross K. Can you able to see here whatever I am writing?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. So now based on this, we want to define some relation theta on L and some relation phi on K, and we want to make sure that they are congruence relations and psi is equal to theta cross phi. So define theta on L as A is congruent to B modulo theta if, or you can call if and only if A comma C, because somehow we have to relate to this side. So if and only if A comma C is congruent to B comma C modulo psi for some psi sorry, for some C in K. Okay, for some C which is in K. Similarly, and similarly define, we will explain again, define phi on K as, call it suppose X is congruent to Y modulo phi if and only if, what should be your guess, that some Z comma X should be congruent to Z comma Y modulo psi for some this Z is in L. Is this clear? See, first coordinate belongs to L, second coordinate belongs to K. So here A comma C and B comma C. So here second coordinate is fixed. At least for some K it should happen. For some C should in K should happen. Right? Similarly for phi we have defined like this. Now after defining this, what we have to show is, so our claim is that first make sure that this theta and phi are congruence relations, because we are defining, they are not guaranteed that they will be congruence relations. Is this clear? Okay. So what is meant by saying, suppose I will we will quickly see one, the other is same way you can do it. We want to show suppose theta, whatever we have defined here, is a congruence relation. That means we want to show that it is reflexive, means it is an equivalence relation and it satisfies substitution property, right? Why theta is reflexive? Theta is reflexive, that means we want to show that, that is A is congruent to A modulo theta, right? When A will be something is congruent to B modulo theta, here we have to deal every time with whatever we know which is modulo psi. So if at all we can get some element here, in K, right? Using the fact that psi is congruence relation, so therefore psi is reflexive. So A comma C is congruent to A comma C modulo psi or not? This is because A comma, you take any C, no problem, is congruent to A comma C modulo psi. So therefore you get that A is congruent to A modulo theta. Is this clear? Fine. Now what is second one? We want to show that theta is, to show it is equivalence relation, we want to show theta is symmetric. Okay. So what is meant by saying that theta is symmetric? Start with, let A is congruent to B modulo theta. Somehow we want to show that B is congruent to A modulo theta. But how you can use this? By relation, how we have defined here? There exists some C, you can call it, there exists some C in K such that A is congruent, A comma C is congruent to B comma C modulo psi. Are you following? That is the how we have defined this relation, right? But what we know about psi? We know that psi is a congruence relation, so therefore their symmetric follows. That means B comma C is congruent to A comma C, right, modulo psi, because psi is transitive. Since this psi is symmetric, here we require symmetry. That is same as saying that again second coordinate is same, so therefore B is congruent to A modulo theta. That proves that theta is symmetric. Now third one, what is third one? We want to see that
Transitive.
yes, so theta is transitive, we want to prove. So to show theta is transitive, we want to start with, okay, so let me take this full screen. Okay, to show theta is transitive, let A is congruent to B modulo theta and C is congruent to D modulo theta. Then somehow we want to show that A is congruent, this is B is congruent to transitivity, so we want to apply transitivity. So for that, A is congruent to B modulo theta and B is congruent to C modulo theta. Somehow we want to show that A is congruent to C modulo theta, right? But by definition, when two elements are congruent modulo theta, you can call it there exists some K, right? Okay, so here for proving before this, we require one result that we will prove here. So before we require that one now. Okay, so what is that result? Is that if whenever, so before proving this transitivity, we'll prove a claim. Why we require that also I will tell. So what that claim is that if A comma C is congruent to B comma C modulo psi for some C, then we can prove that it is actually true for every element of this, every element of K. That means if, so our claim is if A comma C is congruent to B comma C modulo psi, okay, for some C in K, then our result is, then this is actually A comma D is congruent to B comma D modulo psi for every D in K. That means if this relation is true for one element, then we are saying that it is also true for each and every element. Okay, so that there is no point of some C, you can take any element we can require. At that time we will go back here and take same element for both relations. Are you following? What is this claim? This claim says that whenever two elements A comma C is congruent to B comma C for some C, then A comma D is congruent to B comma D for every D in K. So no matter what element we take from K, right? So how we will prove first this claim, because we require that in proving transitivity or later also, this is more important. How we will prove is that, so A comma C is given to be congruent to B comma C modulo psi, right? Now somehow we want to show that this A comma D is congruent to B comma D. So start with let. So you write here for some C in K. Now let D is any arbitrary element, let D belongs to K. Using the fact that this psi, okay, this psi is a congruence relation, and whenever it satisfies using all those properties, we want to prove this. Okay, our aim is to get somewhere, we have to get D here. So for this, first what we will do here is we will try to take suppose you take A join B and A join B, we want to get somewhere here with D. C meet D. Okay, so we want to select some suitable element. So suppose if I take A join B, okay, A join B, then if I meet with A, here I will get A only. If I meet with B, I get B, and then you take D. Okay, D is in K. This is congruent to A join B, D in K. This is reflexive, right? Psi is reflexive. So I have taken one element A join B comma D and A join B comma D. Remember A and B are in L. So A join B is in L. So this is in L cross K, right? Now by taking these two, by considering these two, what we will get by substitution property. Therefore by substitution property, we get by taking because psi is a congruence relation, so substitution property is true. So I will try to meet with these two. So if I try to meet with these two, what I will get? A comma C meet with A join B comma D is congruent to B comma C meet with A join B comma D modulo psi, right? But what is this one? This is same as by coordinate meet. If you take A meet A join B, that is same as what? A meet A join B. So if I that is same as, because A is smaller, so I get A here. Then C meet D is congruent to, similarly B meet A join B is same as B meet B comma C meet D. Okay, right? This is modulo psi. This is modulo psi, right? But somehow now we should get here D. I would say our idea is to go what? A comma D and B comma D we want to get here. Okay, so from C somehow we have included. So C meet D we got. Now we have to select a suitable element in such a way that when you get here, you should get D here. Okay, so how we will do that? If we take some element, again we have to use substitution property. So we have to use some also. Here also A I should get, B I should get here, right? But the other way, if I take some element here, then when I'm, suppose I call it join. If I take with some element and I try to join with that, okay, so I will take A meet B comma, I'll take D here. This one we know that is congruent to A meet B comma D modulo psi, just like how we have written here, right? So again by substitution property, applying these two, therefore applying these two, by this time I will take as join. So if I take A comma C meet D join with A meet B comma D is congruent to B comma C meet D join with A meet B comma D modulo psi, right? But what is this one? So we have applied two times substitution property, that's all. So this is same as A join A meet B, because A is bigger, so what we will get here is A only. Then C meet B, D join D. What is C meet D join D? C meet D join D is same as D, because D is bigger, is congruent to, similarly here B join A meet B is same as B, and this is similarly is D, we are getting modulo psi, right? So therefore we have proved that if A comma B, A comma C is congruent to B comma C modulo psi, then it is actually true for any D in K, right? This claim we require here, and we also use many times. Now let's go back to transitivity. Right? So how we will prove the transitivity? Because here A comma C, here A is congruent to B modulo theta and B is congruent to C modulo theta. So therefore by definition you can take same element, whichever works for here also works for here. So therefore I can write A is congruent to B modulo theta. So I am writing again, and let B is congruent to C modulo theta. This implies I can write that A comma, I can use the fact, suppose I can call it some A, B, C I have used. So I will use D here. Okay, so A comma D is congruent to B comma D modulo psi. By definition, how we have defined theta. Similarly, B is congruent to and B is congruent to C. So therefore B comma D is congruent to C comma D modulo psi. Is this clear? Why now I can able to use same D here? Because of this property. Otherwise I might have written here D1 and I might have written here D2. Is this clear? For this one, how let's quickly go up and see what is the definition we have defined. You can see here A is congruent to B modulo theta if this is true for some C belongs to K. So when A is congruent to B, there exists some C. Similarly, when you have another one, there is not guarantee that the same element will be there. Because of that, we have proved this claim which says that whenever this is true, okay, we have proved that it is actually true for any element in K, not necessary for some. So there is no point of even taking C1 and C2. You can directly take any element, no matter. So we are taking here same D, whatever it is existing for this, we are saying that it is also true for this one, right? Now our idea is what? We want to, using the fact that now psi is a, since our psi is transitive, so if you have some D1 here and D2 here, then you cannot apply transitive property, but we have made it same D, we can apply transitive property. What we get? We get that A comma D is congruent to C comma D modulo psi. Is this clear? Are you following? Are you following or not? Why this is clear?
Yes, sir.
So because this B comma D and B comma D and psi is transitive, so therefore A comma D is congruent to C comma D, and by definition, because you have a D here, that shows that A is congruent to C modulo theta. So you should know how we are going from theta to psi and psi to theta, right? So we proved that theta is transitive. Now last one, substitution property. So substitution property. So to prove that substitution property for theta, what we should start with? Let's call it A naught is congruent to B naught modulo theta and A1 is congruent to B1 modulo theta, right? And somehow we want to show that A naught meet B naught is congruent to A1 meet B1, similarly for join. But by definition again, I can use some, there exists some D such that, or you can take any D, no problem. A naught comma D is congruent to B naught comma D modulo psi by definition, and A1 comma D is congruent to B1 comma D modulo this psi because of this one. Is this clear? Or if you want, you can take also D1, D2 here, there is no problem. Here also you can take whatever we require, right? Now because psi is satisfies substitution property, from this by taking meet, what we will get? A naught comma D meet with A1 comma D is congruent to B naught comma D meet with B1 comma D modulo psi, right? By substitution property. This is same as A naught meet A1, D meet D is same, is congruent to B naught meet B1 comma D modulo psi, right? But that is same as saying that because your second coordinate is same as saying that we can convert into theta, right? So therefore that proves that. Similarly you can prove it for joint, that I am not writing. So therefore theta is a congruence relation, congruence relation on L, right? So similarly you can check that our phi, whatever we have defined, phi is a congruence relation on K. So one part we have proved. If we see quickly, psi, it is a given that psi is a congruence relation, any congruence relation. Then we have defined theta and phi using this relation. Then we shown that theta is a congruence relation. Similarly it follows phi is also congruence relation. When we are proving this, we have a important claim we have proved is that when a comma c is congruent to b comma c, then it is actually congruent to any d element d, right? Now let's prove. Now we will prove that our claim is this, our psi is actually theta cross phi. What is theta cross phi? How theta cross phi is defined? Yesterday we have defined that A should be congruent to B modulo theta and C should be congruent to D modulo theta. That is the meaning of this, right? So this is proving, same as proving that this psi should be contained in theta cross phi and theta cross phi should be contained in psi. So we will take any relation here, we will show that that relation is also here, and so on, right? So take any relation, suppose start, let A comma B is congruent to C comma D modulo this theta cross phi. Okay, then we want to show that this A comma B is congruent to C comma D modulo psi also. Is this clear? What is the definition of this? By definition, how this is defined, cross relation is A should be congruent to C modulo theta and B should be congruent to D modulo phi. Are you following? Right. Now from here, how A is congruent to C modulo theta is defined. This is defined as in terms of psi, right? So you can write here A comma, you can call it some x. Okay, A comma x is congruent to C comma x modulo psi. Are you following? And for this you can write y if necessary. What is meaning of this one? Because it is with respect to y, so I can write here, and y comma b is congruent to y comma d modulo psi. Remember, whenever there is a relation for theta, you have to, second coordinate is fixed. Okay, whenever it is congruent to modulo phi, your first coordinate is fixed. Is this clear? By using this, and this is true for every x and for every y. So we will take finally some suitable x and some suitable y, that we will see later. But because these two are congruent, by using substitution property, what we will get? We can meet them. So a comma x meet with y comma b is congruent to c comma x meet with y comma d modulo psi. Okay, but that is same as a meet y comma x meet b is congruent to c meet y comma x meet d modulo psi, right? Okay, now we have to, because this is true for any x and any y, any x in K and any y in L, we will select our x and y suitable, so that what we require? We require that A comma B is congruent to C comma D modulo psi. So somehow we should get here A and B here and C and D here. Okay, so we have to select x and y in such a way that this we should get A and this we should get B. Okay, similarly this we should get C and this we should get D. So can somebody tell? So for which? So select or choose suitable, because I give x and y, then you will just verify. Choose suitable x. Of course x is from where? X should be from K and y should be from L, such that this relation actually becomes, after substituting, A comma B is congruent to C comma D modulo psi. This is the idea. Okay, so this is our idea. So how we can select that such x and y? Of course, this x and y should be in between in the form of a, b, c, d, like that, right? How we will select? What y we have to select here, such that when we meet we should get a here, and when we should get meet with this c we should get same c. Can somebody tell? That means what is an element?
A meets C.
Now if you take a meet c you won't get. Why we have to take in such a
Y
way
is
that,
equals to A join C.
very good, y is equal to a join c, because if we take, so take our y as a join c, then you can see that a meet a join c, because a join c is bigger. By absorption law you will get a here and you will get c here. Are you following? And similarly, can somebody tell now what should be our x, such that here we should get b and here you should get d?
B join D.
Yes,
X is equals to B join D.
that's all. So if I might have written this y and x, you take a join c like this and b join d, we may wonder why we have to take like that, right? So but now because of this idea we will know that what should be our y and what should be our x, right? So therefore what we will get after substituting there, a meet our a join c comma x means our b join d meet with d is congruent to c meet y, which is a join c, okay, comma, and what is our next coordinate, x, which is b join d meet d. Is this clear? Modulo psi, right? That is what our required, because a meet is, this is a only, and what is this b join d meet d is d, right? Are you following? Any problem?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Because
sir.
what we want to show, we want to, no, here we want b, right? Obviously this is, no, here we want, yeah, b join d meet d. See, one second, here what we require, no, this is not here, this is not correct, because what we get here is b join d meet d. If we take, what we get here, d is smaller, right? But we want, what we want here, we want b meet d, because here what we require is, here we want b, okay? So just a small thing x we want to change here. What we have to take in such a way that we should get here b is the question. Here while writing I written mistake, nobody noticed it here. Here instead of d it should be b, right? Bx is b join d meet d, so b join d meet d is b, okay, so that's fine, is congruent to, now this is same as c, and b join d meet d is d modulo psi. So therefore we have taken a comma b and c comma d modulo theta comma phi, theta cross phi. We shown that they are actually congruent with respect to psi also. This shows that theta cross phi is actually contained in psi. To show the converse, now let call it a comma b is congruent to c comma d modulo psi. We want to show that a comma b congruent to c comma d modulo theta cross phi. That means, so our claim is what, a should be congruent to b, sorry, c, a should be congruent to c. So let me write properly. So we want to show that a should be congruent to c modulo theta and b should be congruent to d modulo phi. If we can show that, then it is there in cross product. Is this clear? So I will show one of them, the other one is simply follows in same way. We want to show that a is congruent to c modulo theta. Is this clear? But when a will be congruent to c modulo theta, how theta and psi are related? If we can show that a comma some element is congruent to c comma some element with respect to modulo psi, then that means if your second coordinate is same, then we get that a is congruent to c modulo theta. Is this clear? Okay. So by using the property that psi is congruence relation, we take some suitable element here and we'll apply substitution property, right? So that a first coordinate will be same as a and here it will be same as c, and the second coordinate should is same. So what we will take here? So we want to take, you take this A join C, because I will try to meet with that. So when I try to meet with A join C, I will get A here, I will get C here, no problem, right? Then I will take here B meet D.
B meet D.
Yes, we know that this one is congruent to A join C, B meet D, because psi is reflexive. Is this clear? So clearly, or we know by reflexivity this is true. Now take these two and apply substitution property. This implies, and by means you apply meet. What we will get? A comma B meet with A join C comma B meet D is congruent to C comma D, okay, meet with A join C comma B meet D modulo psi. Okay, you may ask why we are taking here B meet D, because we should get second coordinate same. So when you meet with this, you will get B meet D, which is same as B meet D. Here you will get B meet D, which is same as again B meet D. Is this clear? If you take any other element, you may not get that same way. This is same as, what is A meet A join C? Because A is smaller,
A.
you get this. And here you get B meet. Is this clear? Is same as, similarly you get here C and you get here B meet D, right? So that proves that because your second coordinate is same, that shows that A is congruent to C modulo theta.
C modulo psi.
Yes. No, C modulo theta, because this is modulo psi, so therefore we can claim that it is modulo theta, right? Now how we can prove that B is congruent to D modulo phi? What should be the element we have to take? If we want to show that B is congruent to D modulo phi, that means we want to show that first coordinate is same and second coordinate here is B, here is D. Are you following? With respect to psi. So here you have taken whatever relation we have taken, similarly you have to apply that. How you can do that? Can somebody tell? You have A comma B and C comma D, right? So somehow you have to select such type of one similar, so that when you meet it, you get first coordinate is same. How you will get first coordinate is same? With this. Simple, right? Why you want this much time? Huh? Here you take A meet C and here you take
B join D.
B join D, right?
B.
And try to take meet. Is this clear? Are you following? So
Yes, sir.
similarly what we have here is, similarly B is congruent to D modulo phi. I give it as exercise, you prove it. Prove it. What is your hint? Hint is, hint is that what we have to take? You observe that A meet C,
A meet C,
B join D
comma
is,
B join D.
is congruent to A meet C, B join D modulo psi. Then apply substitution property, you will get it. That's all I have already given. That is the main hint. You have to just rewrite that. Is this clear? So therefore we have proved that whenever A comma B is congruent to C comma D modulo psi, then A is congruent to C modulo theta and B is congruent to D modulo phi. Therefore our this psi is nothing but theta cross phi. Is this clear? That proves that any congruence relation on L cross K of, it should be of this form, right? Fine. So this is a nice result. Many things you have to understand here is, we just proof look like bigger, but content is not that difficult, right? Are you following? So we have proved that
Yes, sir.
if psi is any congruence relation on L cross K, it should be of the form theta cross phi, where some theta and phi are congruence relations on L cross. Okay, this is about cross product, and of course you can define this cross product. We have defined for cross product or direct product for 2. You can define for many also, n number also you can define. You have to take Cartesian product for that. We will see another result or type of, as I said, type of lattice. So we will quickly recall. If we recall, what is definition of lattice? We prove a poset L is called a lattice if, what is the definition? Either infimum of a comma b
And supremum
and
exist.
supremum of a comma
And
b
supremum of a comma b exist.
exists for every a comma b in L. Or we also proved equivalently, what is the statement we have proved equivalently? For any finite set, so is a L is a lattice if or if and only if infimum of H and supremum of H exists for every finite set, for every finite subset H of L. Is this, do you remember this result? We have proved that not only for 2, if you, it is enough if we prove that for any finite set infimum and supremum exist, right? Now if at all this statement is true for any subset, not necessarily finite, then that lattice is called a complete lattice. Okay, so we will define what is meant by a complete lattice. So a lattice is said to be complete, a lattice L is called complete lattice if, what is the definition? This infimum of H and supremum of H exists, okay, for every subset of H, for every subset H of L. What is difference between this one and the above one? The above definition is only required that it should be finite subsets. Okay, so if it is true for any subset, then that lattice will become actually complete lattice. Are you following? Is definition clear for complete lattice? Usually something is a lattice if and only for every finite subset infimum and supremum. This result we can also denote this by, if you remember this notation, right? Meet H and join H. If these two exist for every finite set, then it is actually a lattice. But if it exists for every subset, even no matter whether it is finite or infinite, then that lattice is called complete lattice. Are you following? Yes. So as a, here when we have proved it, it is enough if we prove that infimum exists, then going using dual property and so on, we prove that supremum exists. Okay, here we will prove a result, then we can stop here after a small result, but it is useful that it is enough if we check that infimum of X exists for every finite set, for every set, then supremum automatically exists. It is not, doesn't just follows by duality property, we have to prove it. Okay, so a poset L, okay, is, you can L or P you can call it, is called or is a complete lattice if this meet H, okay, or it is also called infimum of H exists, okay, for every subset H of L, for every finite not finite necessary, for every subset H of L. So what you have to understand here is, we are, it is enough if you prove any one of them. That means either you prove it for infimum or you prove it for supremum. Are you following? Okay. So it is not necessary that, or what you should understand here is, if infimum of H exists for every subset, then it, we can prove that supremum also exists for every subset. So therefore to check completeness, it is enough if you check either meet or join, right? Okay, so you start with let H be a subset, let H be a subset of L. We want to show that for this H supremum exists, then it will become a complete lattice because already infimum of H exists. So given given that meet of H exists. Okay, say A is equal to meet of H. What is the meaning of this? That is nothing but infimum of that set H. Are you following? Okay, for any subset this also exists. Here we don't require, we require some other type, so you can remove this. Okay, so what we know is that meet of H exists for every, not only this H, you give any subset also it exists. Now if you are remembered, when infimum and supremum relation, how we can get supremum of this H is, so we want to show that, we will show that this join of H exists. Okay. The idea is simple. You take all upper bounds for H, then among all upper bounds you take the least one. Usually that will become the supremum, least upper bound, right? So to do that, let K be the, let K be the set of all upper bounds of this set H. Okay, so what is by notation, how you can write mathematically, that is our K you can write as alpha is here if alpha is an upper bound of H. Are you following? So whenever something is an upper bound, then it is a member of that set K. We will, what we know now, now K is a subset of this L or not? Clearly, as K is a subset of L, what is given to us? It is given that infimum of any set exists, so therefore infimum of this K exists. Are you following? That we will call it, say, A, which is infimum of K. So we are not actually taking infimum of H, but we are taking infimum of K. That exists, we know it, right? Now we will prove that, because this A, which is infimum of all lower bounds, so that means that will be the, so our claim is, what should be our claim? A should be the supremum of our H. Let me repeat this one. The idea is simple. You take a subset, we want to show that least upper bound exists for this. So you take another set K which contains all upper bounds of this H. Okay, then it is a, as it is a subset, for this subset infimum exists. So meet of K exists, you can call it A as meet of this. Now whatever meet is existing for this, that will be the supremum of our H, right? So what is meaning of proving that A is this is supremum of H. So you want to show that A is first of all an upper bound and it is also least upper bound, right? How we will prove that A is an upper bound for H? So to show that A is an upper bound of H, let H is any element of this. Okay, how we will relate this one? How we will relate this? What we know about A? We know that A is a infimum of the set K, right? So as A is equal to meet of K, this implies A is less than or equal to alpha for every alpha in K, right? Because A is the greatest lower bound, so in particular it is a lower bound. Are you following? Okay, now this implies, how will how we will relate this A and H?
H is less than or equals to A.
H is less than or equal to A because it is not only, it is this A is a greatest lower bound of K, right? So therefore it is, in particular it is a, that whatever we are calling it is A is actually a upper bound of H, right? Are you following? And A is an upper bound of this H, right? This shows that whenever you have an element, you get that H is less than or equal to A. Is this clear? Are you following?
Yes, sir. Yes.
So so what we want to show now, it is, we want to show that H is this A is least upper bound, right? So how we will show that A is least upper bound? Hmm? What is relation here? We want to show that A is least upper bound. That means A is least upper bound. So we want to show that if we start with any upper bound, okay, because if we want to show that it is least, so you call it, suppose let B be an upper bound for this set H, right? If B is an upper bound for H, we want to show that A is less than or equal to B, right? But B is an upper bound for H means what? If B is an upper bound for H, B actually belongs to this set K, right? This implies B actually belongs to this set K. So B belongs to K, right? And A, and as A is infimum of K, that means what? What is relation between these two now? A is actually a lower bound for this K. That means what we get here is A is less than or equal to B, because A is a lower bound for this set K, right? So that shows that A is less than or equal to B, but B is an upper bound, means this implies A is the least upper bound, right? A is least upper bound, that is same as saying that A is join of H or supremum of H, right? So it is enough if meet exists, then join also exists. Are you following? Yes. So that is so you can characterize complete lattice. It is enough if you find that meet of any subset exists or join of any subset exists. Okay. So in next class we'll stop here. In next class we'll discuss about what are all other things, some just you can call it what is meant by polynomial in a lattice. Okay, so far we have not seen, we have seen only two elements like that A and B are meet and so on. So in next class we will define what is meant by polynomial in lattice, because that is required. Okay.